Kia ora koutou, welcome to this meeting. Thank you for joining us. Please stand if you're able for the karakia. Ko te awa karangi te aha tohono o konahira nei. Tuia kia ngā tahi ngā whakairo, tuia kia ngā tahi te riri, tuia kia ngā tahi te whakatonga, he whariki tuahu mati hapori, humia huia tai. We potentially have an apology from Councillor Bill Hammond if he's not able to join us online. He is away but planning on joining us. So for now, I'll move an apology for lateness, seconded by Councillor Holderness. All those in favour? No, carried. Excellent. Do any members wish to declare any pecuniary or non-financial conflict of interest with any agenda items today? All right, we move to item number 4, which is our public forum. We have, despite lots of people joining us, we have only 2, as far as I'm aware, joining us for the public forum section, and that is Chris Carson and Stephen Dole. So we'll have Chris Carson first. If someone was planning to speak who's registered, who's not on that list, please let us know. Before we begin, I'll just outline, welcome Chris. Very familiar with this place, I'm sure. Before we begin, I'll just outline how this is supposed to run. We will have 5 minutes, as Chris knows. The bell will sound at 4 minutes, and then he will have a further minute to speak, and then there'll be questions from councillors. And Chris knows all of the other bits and pieces. I won't bother repeating them. So welcome back.
Thank you, Ruth.
I'll hand over to you.
Good afternoon, councillors. I know this is new tables here, so I hope you got a good price for the old ones. Just talking about the future of Upper Hutt in terms of what's on the table this afternoon, and it's quite clear. In fact, the words that John Wellington, former Deputy Mayor, 2 days ago, posted on Facebook made it quite clear and outlined quite a few of the good points that he raised. And firstly, of course, is that it's quite clear from the survey. And for those that remain, who don't respond to surveys, which is a majority of the population, but from the previous attempt at amalgamation, it's quite clear that the residents and ratepayers of Upper Hutt are bitterly opposed to any amalgamation in the future. However, I believe the councillors are a catch-22, much like local water done well, and that you don't have much choice in front of you. You've only got one choice, which is one of the options you'll consider this afternoon, and that is don't participate in the first round and abstain from being part of a so-called regional amalgamation, whatever that form should take. Now, if I were the councillor, I would take that step because it was would be politically satisfying and would look to the interest of Upper Hutt, because because there's the backstop procedure following later on, whatever that will look like if it does happen, and if Upper Hutt is dragged kicking and screaming into the amalgamation, then you can clearly say to the residents of Upper Hutt, we did our best, we voted against us, but government has other decisions upon you. And so that's the way, if I was a councillor, I would vote that way. But it's clear that there's a few things in the woodworks coming up, and that's the election in November. And who knows what will happen there if you're thinking correctly. I know who I would vote for. But it remains to be seen whether or not any legislation go forward after the election to make this procedure legal. And if there's a change of government, then everything is up in the air again, much like we have happened with Three Waters and local water done well. To me, I would have preferred to amalgamate, if we had to amalgamate as a city with Lower Hutt, with Hutt City. That's the obvious choice, being a Hutt Valley council, because we already do a lot of things in partnership. The cemetery, the Seaview wastewater project, and a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. And I know a lot of the council staff here talk regularly with the Hutt City Councillor staff and vice versa on various policy issues and seeking information. And so there's a clear path there. But unfortunately, one particular mayor has decided not to go down that path, unfortunately. So that would be my preference if I was a councillor, would be to amalgamate. And I did say, I think before my term finished last year, that within 10 years, I thought there would be a Hutt Valley Council. I never thought that would be so soon that we're considering amalgamation issue. So if I was you, and if I wanted to retain my job as a councillor in 3 years' time, I would vote no to this proposal to be part of the regional amalgamation, and then wait to see what the backstop brings, and if there's a change of government, which I hope will happen. That's all from me.
Thank you, Chris, and for your contribution as an elected member yourself in the past. So very useful to have you here. Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Hutt.
You through you. Nice to see you, Chris.
Thank you.
And I always enjoy hearing your views. And so I'd just like to have apart from public opinion and our re-election or not, what do you see as the advantages to being dragged along in the process?
In terms of waiting to the backstart.
Yeah.
I think that when I look at the report that was prepared, and particularly Martin Jenkins' report in terms of what savings there are, $3,000 to $4,000 over 30 years. Now, one of the questions I would raise there, is that discounted to current year dollars? Because 3,000 to 4,000 over 30 years is nothing. Will be 10 cents by the time of the 30 years. But more importantly, 289 million for the setup costs. That's going to be a burden on all ratepayers in Upper Hutt, and we're already looking at the water increases, which are predicting 20% in year 27, 28 at least. My overall costs have gone up $360 between the rates and the water. But so I would actually, because the whole thing is uncertain, and because there's no legislation in place, and because of the general elections coming up, I would play a better bet in terms of saying, let's wait and see what happens. It's not like local water done well, where there was a clear path and timeline where it had to be followed to the 1st of July. This is a lot more uncertain. And I think it's unfortunate for the government, unfortunate for us, that they are timing this with the general election. You know, I would have timed it after the general election or a year before. So I think it's a bit of posturing by the coalition government, in my mind. So we'll see what happens. My real preference is there should be a referendum as part of local body elections. Let the people decide by a referendum.
Thank you, Chris, for coming along. My question is that, and it's a big one for us, is that with the dissolving of the Greater Wellington Regional Council, how do you see us actually absorbing and managing those responsibilities that will fall on us with our recommendation that you're asking us to do, which is stay out, let's wait for Head Start to see what that looks like? I'd appreciate your views, if you don't mind sharing it.
Well, in terms of the Greater Wellington responsibilities, which are really transport, the water ownership in terms of Timarua, etc., that can be done. I mean, the already proposal is that the mayors replace the Greater Wellington Council, and I would presume that you would form partnerships or agreements or operating agreements with the other councils, the other four councils, and have some sort of operating agreement or something like that, which is a bit like a partnership agreement between the councils under the terms of public transport and all that. you could actually set up, like Auckland did until Mayor Brown decided to bring it back into Auckland City, you could set up a company that runs the public transport, the transport system in the Wellington region. So there's other options to do that, and that company would be owned by the 5 councils. So there's other ways of handling this. So it's a bit like Auckland. My other concern is that will Upper Hutt City remain as a city on amalgamation? Or are we just talking about administration, being unitary council, or are we saying it's a bit like Auckland City, where other cities got absorbed into, and it was called Wellington City, it will be called Wellington City. So my greatest concern is, does the Upper Hutt City in itself name disappear? And I hope not, as part of that.
Thank you, Chris.
All good?
All good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have our second speaker, who is Stephen Dole. Welcome, Stephen. Kia ora.
You don't have to worry, I'm not going to talk to all of this.
I wasn't.
But first of all, I'd like to want to Mayor, fellow councillors, the executive team, just like to thank you and acknowledge that you've given me an opportunity to speak. I've come quite somewhat late into this conversation myself, and I must say, now I'm not a social technology sort of person, even though I have a technology background. I've been a resident or a ratepayer. I'm a resident of Upper Hutt for over 35 years. My background is in project management, contract law in particular, and also because, like you, I have worked in government, and so I am acutely aware of governing law that we, in whatever role we might have played, influences how we behave in our activity and the business we do. Right? So this is the place where I come from, and I hope I can embellish that a little bit with you for consideration. I think the first thing is, and this is the only sheet that I would talk to, I think the first thing is that I'm not asking you to vote against the proposal. I'm asking whether you have sufficient information that you need to actually vote on it at all. And I'll explain that a little bit. So the second point is your own agenda supporting papers in the technical appendix. And I've had to really put a lot of effort into this to try and understand what's going on. And what I'm starting to see, and I'm discovering this, is that there's a lot of contradictions in the information that has been provided. So, for example, in the technical appendix, when it talks about the distributional impact, it says that lower rate districts under harmonisation, the efficiencies are unlikely to offset the costs or the increases and in the rates. And this information is not presented to you in the executive summary. Now that's serious, because if you're like me, in my past life, the place where I spent most of my time was in the executive summary. And you have in front of you information, and serious information, that's missing. So that's my second thing. The third thing is your own referential section says that rate increases could outweigh, that those rate increases could outweigh any amalgamated related savings. So, which is really interesting, because your executive summary says that the analysis shows improved financial sustainability, And yet you've got a contradiction in the actual technical appendix which says it won't. Now, they can't both be right. You agree? You agree? They can't both be right. So either one is right and one is wrong, and you don't have the information in front of you with regard to what is right. And I think that's important. So the fourth thing is I've tried to engage in conversation with the council and a number of councillors, and I've had some replies. And there's a number of councillors have confirmed for me that in writing that Section 83 has not been raised with the councillors. I'm talking about the Local Government Act, which is 2002. And Section 83 has some very serious implications into the way you do business around this proposal and what you're about to vote on. And it is also covered in Section 72 to 82, I think it is.
Yes.
Which outlines the process and the engagement you must have with the council, with the your constituents. You also have a significance and engagement policy. Now, that's not a sort of nice to have on the library document. It actually requires you to engage with the constituents of the council of the city, and I would be interested to see that document that you've written up that is written up against that policy. I actually don't believe it exists. I could be wrong, and happy to be wrong, but I don't think it exists, and certainly it's not been made public. And if it was, I think it would be unlikely that it would be in favour if you've been able to make a vote tonight on the item 6 on the agenda. So I've had confirmation also in writing from the council with regard to judicial review risks, that there has been no legal, nothing legal has been presented to support or to at least address that potential risk. And the reality is that is a huge risk for the council at the moment. And I would, no, I really don't have much more to say about that other than I'm informing you about that. So I'll finish off on what I'm asking for. There are three things. I'm asking for a significance and impact assessment, which is based on your own policy. If you haven't got that, it has to be done. It's very clearly outlined. The second thing is what legal advice on sections 76 to 82 of the LGA 2002 Act has that been satisfied? Have you satisfied those parts of the legislation? And if you haven't, that's a serious thing. The third thing is the distributional impact finding needs to be put up front in front of the councillors, and I don't believe it has been because it's not in the executive summary, and it needs to be put up front in plain English so that everybody can understand. And if these three things support proceeding, proceed. But I don't believe that you can right now. I don't think you have the information to be able to make that vote. And so I'm imparting to you and hopefully impressing on you the significance of what I'm saying, because it actually is quite serious. It probably concludes all that I need to say.
Questions from council.
Thank you, Stephen, for coming along, and I've read a number of the emails that you sent through to us as council, drawing a number of issues to our And I agree with the pieces of legislation that you've got. So my question is, thank you for highlighting those. As a person in the public, you can't put questions to us.
Yep.
But I'm sure that as elected members, when we go to debate and ask questions, some of us hopefully will pick up those questions for you. But I just wanted to thank you for coming late to the conversation, but being a voice that challenges us and makes us think about the decisions that we make. So thank you.
Stephen, thank you. I have a question around, in your statement, you talked about receiving correspondence from council about the judicial review risk, the advice we'd received on judicial review risk. Who was that from?
It was, it has its origins from Lagoma.
So, sorry, the question is who was the correspondence from, just so that to you around?
Whoever it was in the team, the Lagoma team, there were two different people. So, and it basically said that the documentation doesn't exist. So it's a statement by council saying that it doesn't exist, it's not there. Now, and if it does exist, that's a bit serious because I've been told it doesn't. Now, if it doesn't exist, it's significant because it means you don't know what your risk is. And I mean, if I was the council, if someone on council, I would want to know that, at least for consideration. And I think for a decision today, that actually is really important.
Next session. Anyone have any further? No? Thank you so much.
Just one last thing, I have provided a paper that I've asked to be submitted to the minutes and to the record. It does contain a lot more information and it would be helpful if you need it.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. We move now to our next item, which is the presentation of a petition called Like Upper Hutt, Keep It Local, Oppose Amalgamation. This will be presented by Teresa Homan. And just want to acknowledge Teresa for her hard mahi in this petition collection. Also, I've seen you out and about in all weather, including this afternoon when it was very cold. So I acknowledge your dedication to the community. Similar to our public forum, you'll have 5 minutes to present, and we'll have a ballot for, and then we'll have clarifying questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Like Upper Hutt, keep it local. You, the Council of Upper Hutt, are the instigators of any reorganisation or amalgamation of Upper Hutt Council services and functions. The accumulated assets and rate funding managed by you, our elected representatives, belong to Upper Hutt residents, and you need a mandate from us to allow you to consider any reorganisation of them. None of you asked for or were given this mandate from Upper Hutt residents when elected. If you vote for reorganisation of our council today, you act outside of your elected mandate and against the will of residents. Central government has no current legislation, mandate or ability under the Act to impose what they are calling a backstop if you don't agree to amalgamation proposed by other councils. You cannot claim the government made us do it. As Minister for RMA Reform, Chris Bishop, economical with the truth, stated in today's paper, as I said, a couple of months ago, when we launched the process, this is a voluntary process. But then, as we all know, he also gave councils 3 months to do it, or else the government will impose a backstop. Choose it, or we'll do it to you. And Minister of Local Government Simon Watts confirms that they will need legislative changes to implement so-called Head Start or backstop. We quote, as part of this cabinet will consider legislative changes in 2027, including to the Local Government Act 2002, to facilitate the reorganisation of local government. This includes any legislation required to support successful Head Start proposals, as well as legislation to establish the mandatory backstop process. Central government has cost councils time, money and resources jumping to their tune, when your responsibility is to the ratepayers of Upper Hutt, not government. The question is not about Head Start or backstop. The question is why you, the Council of Upper Hutt, are considering any amalgamation proposal of our council function and services without a public referendum supporting this. Why you, Mayor, on Council's behalf, has been talking to other regions' mayors, and indeed why you, the Council, will even vote on a proposal today without first being endorsed by Upper Hutt residents to do so. Today, we are presenting this petition on behalf of 365 residents who say no to amalgamation of any design. Yes to the development of shared services where there are benefits to the Upper Hutt community, and ask you, Mayor, to cease discussing amalgamation with the region's mayors unless and until you seek and receive a clear mandate through a majority vote by public referendum to do so. We also have presented a similar petition from 38 residents to the Mayoral Forum. Residents of Upper Hutt want affordable rates and control of our assets and rates funding that pays for the amenities that the Upper Hutt community own and want to enjoy now and in the future. There is no appreciable savings for ratepayers in amalgamation of our council functions. In fact, we believe that we will be burdened with the debt and cost of other councils and will certainly lose autonomy of our rates funding. We question a proposal that would give us big council, little council. We ask what would happen to the rates we pay. Are they paid to big council for distribution to little council? And if so, how is allocation determined? And how will this reduce our rates increases? And how will rates paid by Upper Hutt ratepayers be secured for our benefit? No amalgamation contract you agree to should be at a higher level, with these priorities added later. We are here to present this petition to you today. We say no to amalgamation, and we support you to tell central government we will not be bullied into it by their threat to Upper Hutt residents. Do it or else. We need to make local council amalgamation an election issue in November. In conclusion, we strongly suggest you, our council, be responsive to the petition we present on behalf of residents of Upper Hutt and vote no to amalgamation proposals today, or not vote on it at all. To do otherwise is to act against the people who voted you into council and is contestable by residents that oppose amalgamation. Upper Hutt has been consistent in opposing amalgamation. We oppose amalgamation when Local Government Commission in 2014 tried to pull the wool over our eyes and say amalgamation was a done deal. Upper Hutt said no to amalgamation. We are saying the same today. Say no to amalgamation. Upper Hutt residents want what is ours secured, and we want a local council that represents us now and in the future. We ask that you, our council, elected by us, for us, like Upper Hutt, and keep it local. Say no to amalgamation. Thank you.
Thank you. I should apologise. I have a bit of a cold, so if you hear me coughing and sneezing in the background here or needing to exit to blow my nose, I'm very sorry. I thought it was very important to be here today, so I will just say that before I move to questions. Who has a question for Councillor Wheeler?
Thank you, Teresa. What are your views on a one Hutt Valley as one TA? Have you, as opposed to a one super city?
I personally oppose it. I think that we have shared services now, we can develop them more. I can't see any particular benefit in it. I can see losses of our ability to just for focus on what will happen for Upper Hutt and the Hutt. I have to say, I believe that we would just be overshadowed by Hutt City. I can't see the benefit. I can see the benefit of developing our shared services even more, or but I don't see why we have to amalgamate. That's my opinion.
Thank you, through you, your worship, and Teresa, thank you for taking the time to put the petition together. I was around in 2014 and it was a very loud, clear message from our community saying no to amalgamation. So with regards to what they call council controlled organisations, which is what you're talking about and will advocate for, you're saying that with the Greater Wellington Regional Council, that if we look at not only buses, which our past councillor Carson alluded to, we've got the environmental issues because we're half rural and half urban. Do you see that a council controlled organisation will be able to look at mitigating maybe some of flood protection and things like that?
Absolutely.
If we stayed the same? You don't see it as a problem at all?
I haven't really thought about it as
Okay.
such, but when you asked the question about the regional council, I thought, didn't we used to look after those things before we got a regional council? I'm sure we can, I'm not saying to the combat, but I'm sure we've got you know, things in the past that we could look at, and maybe, you know, it wasn't, I don't think it was your council or anyone's particular decision to get rid of the regional council, but I think that could be managed. You don't have to amalgamate to do it. It's probably all I think about.
Thank you, Teresa.
Any questions? Excellent. So we have recommendations A and B. They receives the report, receives the petition. And the second one is request the chief executive to provide a written response, the presenting petitioner, following the meeting and have regard to council's resolution on the Wellington regional Head Start proposal. Can I have a move by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Dillon? All those in favour? Aye. I'm just checking online. Bill, hand up would be. I've got you, Matt. Yeah, thank you. We have Councillor Hammond join us online. Thank you. All the motion carried. Excellent. So. We move to item 6, which is our simplifying local government reform Wellington Head Start proposal. This is a significant decision, and I acknowledge the community for being here to participate in this decision making in this process. And we will first have our acting chief executive Kate Thompson introduce the report with Chief Advisor Liesl Younker, and we also have Githa Wild, Group Manager, here to assist.
Thank you, Worship. I will actually again to Liesl Younker first off, just to talk through a few points, including a correction, and then I will speak after Liesl.
Thank you, Your Worship and Kate. As Kate has mentioned, before I introduce the report, I have one correction to note, please, to attachment 1, the Head Start proposal. On page 96 of the agenda, which is page 60 of the proposal document. Give me a moment to find it. In the third column of the table shown, there will be additions just to reflect that Upper Hutt City Council has a formal memorandum of partnership with both the Wellington Sheds Trust and the Palmerston North Māori Reserve Trust. That's just an accidental omission in the proposal document.
Sorry, Lisa, could you say on attachment 1,
Yep.
it's page?
It's page 96 of the agenda. Is page 60 of the proposal.
Fine, okay. And it's just in the column, the third column where it states Hutt City Council, Upper Hutt City Council will be added in for those two entities, the Wellington Thames Trust and the Hutt North Māori Reserve Trust. On to introducing the report then. Through the simplifying local government reform, the government has strongly signalled that local government will be reorganised in the coming years. The decision before Council today is whether or not to continue participating in shaping the potential outcome of such a reorganisation through the Head Start process. This is a government policy-driven process with no enacted or draft legislation supporting it at this stage. Based on information from the government on the reform and requests from ministers, the Head Start process is particularly intended for those council groupings that are ready and willing to consider reorganisation and for them to have opportunity to put in a submission to test options and ideas at this initial stage. The Wellington Region's councils agreed that they were open to exploring this process and a proposal submission, and this council has participated on that basis to get to this decision point. Further background and details on the reform and the regional collaboration on it to date are available in paragraphs 17 through to 74 of the report. The Head Start proposal presented for council approval today comprises an outline of a potential future governance structure in accordance with the Head Start policy direction and criteria set by government. It includes a single regional unitary authority and at least 5 new community councils, indicatively based on current local authority boundaries, but also taking into account catchment areas in the region. The report outlines the next steps should Council approve submission of this proposal. The proposal presented has been developed collaboratively through the Mayoral Forum, supported by the Chief Executives Forum and a Regional Officer Working Group, and if approved, would be submitted to the government by this Sunday, the 9th of August. It is specifically noted that what is presented in the proposal is a potential outcome based on initial high-level work so far, and taking into consideration available information on the government's planned approach to the process from here. If Council were to proceed to participate in the Head Start and submit a regional proposal, there is significant further work required in the proposed detailed design stage, including the government's direction and input on this. This means that the final form and any resulting implications from a reorganisation that may result from this process may vary materially from what has been presented to you today. Initial community engagement has been undertaken through individual council processes and also at a regional level through a joint community reference panel. Of note is the fact that in the Council's own engagement survey in June, 82.4% of respondents supported participating in Head Start over the government's backstop option, while a majority also wanted Council to proceed cautiously in this process. The proposal work completed thus far includes high-level independent modelling conducted by Martin Jenkins on behalf of the councils participating in the process. Scenarios for this financial information could evolve or change based on any given configuration considered and the range of financial settings that may be applied to it, as well as keeping in mind ministerial feedback and direction. So the numbers presented in the financial information at this point are highly likely to change. Officers would note this decision is not primarily the financial one, especially not at this early stage of the process. The indicative financial findings need to be taken into consideration alongside other outcomes that any reorganisation is trying to achieve. And the Martin Jenkins information acknowledges this, stating that the financial impact should not be viewed in isolation. Equal consideration should be given to wider outcomes sought through the reform,
as signalled by both the government direction and in the regional collaboration discussions to date. These include simplified governance, effective local representation, the reallocation of regional council functions, support for a new planning system, improved service delivery and environmental management, and our partnerships and agreements with mana whenua across the region. The options presented to you for decision making in paragraphs 128 through to 141 focus on whether to participate in and submit a proposal to the Head Start process. These options are limited based on the constraints of the Head Start process and the criteria set by government. The report also seeks to authorise the Mayor to take Upper Hutt City Council's position from today's meeting through to the Mayoral Forum on Friday the 7th of August and to develop a position statement for inclusion in any proposal that includes this council. This authorisation enables the Mayor to negotiate at the Forum meeting on Friday any necessary and agreed amendments to the Head Start proposal to be submitted, providing those amendments and the final proposal remain consistent with Council's decisions today. I'll now hand back to the Acting Chief Executive to conclude.
Thank you, Liz. This is a region that has worked hard to forge strong operating relationships over recent years. And I must say, this has been a particularly challenging process for all involved. There have been many difficult and sometimes confronting conversations that have tested relationships and the collaboration on the process largely prescribed by the government's Head Start policy. Officers acknowledge that today's decision is complex, with limited information and modelling available for a matter of this magnitude. This position is generally common to other councils around New Zealand, considering the initial optional step in the reform process before us right now. Councils have been asked to consider what may likely result in a potential fundamental change to local government within an unusually compressed timeframe. And we're working under a policy framework that is still developing and before there is enabling legislation prepared. This also includes as yet unknown ministerial direction and approvals being required as part of the process in the upcoming general election. At the same time, the positions of councils across the region and elements of the proposal have continued to evolve. This work has been necessary, therefore, that this work remains at a high level, and that is what the government requested, that it be at a high level, with important detail left to the subsequent design phase. Process has also attracted significant public interest and strongly held, often competing views. This has placed considerable demands on elected members and officers seeking to work through the complex issues to provide balanced advice and support an informed and transparent decision. This requires councils to weigh up potential opportunities and strategic risks against significant uncertainty and incomplete information. It is therefore important to be precise, and I cannot emphasise this enough, that the decision being sought today is the decision before council that I'll say that again. The decision before council today is whether or not to make a submission to the government's Head Start process on what local government reorganisation could look like for the Wellington region. That is the decision being asked today. If council chooses to participate in making a Head Start submission, the regional proposal presented today is the only indicative option on the table at present. And if approved by the government, it's intended to give councils included in it opportunity to continue in the Head Start process. Based on the parameters of the Head Start process and council direction to date, beyond the joint regional work program delivering in that the proposal presented, there has been no specific or separate work or planning undertaken as an alternative for Upper Hutt. It did not fit the criteria in the Head Start guidance. I've been asked, what does it look like if Upper Hutt stands alone? Upper Hutt standing alone, if it does not submit on the Head Start proposal, there's two main pathways. Under the government's current Head Start policy, there is an ability for other councils in the region to agree to submit a proposal and hold a majority of the population or a majority of the affected local authorities. They can include Upper Hutt in their proposal, regardless of this council's choice not to participate. And the current default would be the council would be subject to the government's backstop process, of which we have no further information. Whatever the decision council reaches today, Upper Hutt's relationships with neighbouring councils and Greater Wellington Regional Councils, Mana Whenua Central Government and the wider region will remain essential. We will continue to collaborate where working together produces better outcomes while representing Upper Hutt's best interests and respecting the democratic decisions made by each council. Today's decision is about the participation in the particular Head Start proposal, not the value of those relationships, nor our commitment. Not the value of those relationships, nor our commitment to continuing to work in a constructive, collaborative way in the region. So that was just, I will hand back to the Mayor now. That is all we wanted to say to introduce the paper to you today.
Thank you. We have now from Councillor Hammond a short statement, if he is able to join us on mute.
Yes, hello. In regard to item 5.1, I signed a petition by Teresa Homan, but I remain open-minded about item 6. So that I'd just like to make that statement, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond, for that to be on the record. So we now will move to questions. However, I also just want to flag with councillors that when we go to the debate, I will allow everyone to speak twice. So unusual for standing orders, and I'll just check whether we need to do a motion to allow that. But because this is such a complex issue, I want everyone to be able to respond meaningfully to others' comments. So we will do that. Any questions? Oh. Questions? Councillor Aldrin.
I just wanted to ask about the engagement survey results, and you had the 82.4% supporting the Head Start pathway option. The thing is that this proposal was not written at that time, and there was very limited information about what that Head Start was. And at the time, there was a lot in the media about how if you don't do this, then the government will do it to you. So it was kind of, I think, that response may be a different response if everyone had read this full proposal and answered the same question today. So I'm just wondering how that could have changed since June.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll start. The question that we put was, do the community want Upper Hutt Council to participate in the Head Start process? And so I think that would still be a relevant question, because it's a simple, straightforward question with no detail underneath it. And the detail we have in front of us today is not detail that is certain. We have very little detail. What we have is a proposal. It's subject to change, it's subject to debate. So I don't know that even now, I can't predict what sort of response we'd get. I'm not sure that the information we have now would be that helpful to that survey question. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, the question was deliberately kept high level because of how what we're required to do by government.
Councillor Sparks.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple of questions and it's really for clarity because sometimes people that are listening and people that are in the room, when we speak council language, they don't always understand what the message is that's being said or relayed. So from my perspective, if we vote that we do not want to go with the Head Start, does that mean that we are abstained from the table and we no longer participate in any conversation? Is my first question, just for clarity. If we direct our mayor to go to the mayoral forum on Friday to say our council have collectively agreed not to participate in the Head Start, does that mean we no longer have a voice around the table?
I will be very careful about how I respond to this.
Well, I think as an elected member, I would like to know because it will have an influence on how I vote.
The mayoral forum is something that everyone in the region has the right to participate in.
Yeah.
How that group choose to take that forward is not a legal issue, it's a relationship issue. So should this council vote to not go forward, there is the option for that group to have a conversation without Upper Hutt involved in the submission process. But this is all unknown because we don't know how everyone's going to vote. So the council could ask the mayor to go to the room and none of that could be heard, depending on how you vote. And I can't predetermine that because I simply don't know how Friday is going to play out. It is not a legal process.
Can I have a follow-up on
Yeah.
that, or do you
Yes,
want?
You might be able to ask.
So, no, I don't have an answer other than the question. Thank you. So, assuming if we resolve not to be included in the substantive kind of proposal, there are still a whole lot of other matters of like regional governance, for example, that are consequences of some level of reform, for example, public transport governance. Would you assume that we would still be able to be at the table on those types of conversations where alternative proposals are going to need to be put up if the government is committed to removing regional councils? As in, do you imagine there would be sort of a two-tier working group?
Okay, thank you. To step back, what we've got is we're here today with each council in the Greater Wellington region has been asked to make a decision on whether they're in Head Start or not. We then get to Friday and Sunday, where the proposal will go, whatever the proposal is, it will be submitted to the government. If Upper Hutt chooses to be part of that, then Upper Hutt will be involved. Sorry, Councillor Slows, I don't know why I'm looking at you.
Well, I didn't pose the question, the first part.
And so Upper Hutt would be fully engaged and involved. If Upper Hutt choose today to not partake in Head Start, and the other councils who can elect to co-op you in, then it is likely that getting till Sunday will not involve Upper Hutt. But I do not know the answer to that. Then that process goes to the government makes a decision. There is ongoing work and to go to the mayor's question, it is at what stage is Upper Hutt, should Upper Hutt elect not to be part of Head Start? At what stage is Upper Hutt allowed back into the room? I cannot sit here and say, because that is, again, it's a relationship decision, not a legal decision. Does that make sense?
So I have other questions, if that's all right. Thank you, Your Worship. So, sure, absolutely, yes, totally.
That's a follow-up question for that. So we're deciding, I'm just clarifying this, so we're deciding not to be involved with this actual proposal. So the model that this proposal suggests, we're being asked to decide whether we stay with this proposal or not. But what's to stop us from supporting another proposal that doesn't exist here? Because I don't like any of these models. So is there a way that we could be involved with the Head Start process, but not with this actual?
Upper Hutt has explored this, although not in detail.
Yeah.
Geographically, Upper Hutt is in, my apologies, emotional language, an unfortunate position, because you cannot go north, you cannot really go, you know, so you don't have the luxury of being a Carson, let's say, that can sit in the middle of people wanting them north and south. So the only way Upper Hutt could practically go was south. Now, when we approached Hutt City, they were not interested in having a conversation with us. Okay, so if we've missed something geographically or missed an opportunity, then I apologise profusely, but I do not think we have. We've explored all viable options, and unfortunately for Upper Hutt, the viable options are very limited.
Councillor for further.
Thank you. So whilst there's no legislation and the government has got no legislation to mandate that we do this, and if we decide to not participate and yet they make a decision before the legislation is passed, how will that affect us, right, in this whole process? And also when we take into consideration, which brings up a point that one of our people from the public brought in, we're supposed to, on significant decisions like this, be able to go out and fully consult over a longer period of time with our community to get a feel. I don't believe that the survey that we did, that we had a number of iterations that we had to change at the very beginning to get it right, that people got frustrated and therefore didn't participate in that. So there's a couple of questions there, and I apologise for that. But I would have thought this would have reached the threshold of stronger scrutiny and engagement with us in the community is my first part.
Through you, Your Worship. The significance of the decision and the process in front of us has been assessed. And based on that, we have followed our significance and engagement policy, which did not require specifically the Section 83 Special Consultative Procedure level of consultation. The Engagement Council undertook was in line with Section 82 consultation and engagement under the Local Government Act. And that was really driven by the process in front of us and the time constraints around that. And I would point out that most councils are in the same position around the region. There were varying types of engagement, but no one undertook special consultative procedure consultation. And I would also note that there has been a clear signal from government, and thus there is an expectation that for those who proceed through the Head Start process to the next stage of detailed design, that there would be opportunity at that point and through that process to engage further and consult with communities. And I think that would speak to Councillor Ultra's earlier question about at the time of the initial engagement leading into this Head Start decision, there was no proposal, there was no formal structure, no detail really to consult the public on in detail. And so through the detailed design stage, if councils are participating and proceeding through that, the expectation would be that is the time between sort of October through till May 2027 that could occur.
Okay, and maybe that might be a way around it, and maybe we need to let the community know that it didn't hit that significant engagement policy. But I see so many similarities in between what we went through with the Te Aki Wai movement to what we're being asked to do here with the amalgamation, where it's a significant decision that we are being asked to make. And I find it really interesting that when I look at this paper here and all the information there, why it was not able to be released earlier to those in our community when we were drip fed this information and it hasn't altered that much. Why were we not able to drip feed it to the public like it was to us? Because it's here in full detail of what, you know, the consultant had done. So why did we hang on to this when all that information that we were drip fed, why were we not able to give it to the community to bring them along? If it didn't hit the significant engagement, surely we should have been able to share this information with the community sooner than when these papers were prepared. It's a lot of stuff to digest.
I can answer if you want. This conversation was had at the Mayoral Forum, and the preference of the majority of the Mayoral Forum was that they this information stay with elected members until it was in a final position. And part of that is to mitigate the risk of if information was released and then changed, you know, then there's confusion potentially in the community around what is the proposal that we're looking at. So things, as much as possible, I advocated for things to be released, as you know, in particular to councillors as soon as we could, and for things to be released to the public as soon as we could, but we did have to have a level of certainty around, you know, making sure the information didn't conflict at a later version of the information, because it had substantially, you know, although generally speaking, the content is similar to what was released to you in parts, there are bits that were corrected and changed.
And another question that I have with the brief that Martin Jenkins were given with regards to, and I'm assuming it came from the Mayoral Forum and from the CEOs, the brief of that, why was it so narrow in what we were asking them to do? Because it appeared that there were other options that could have been put on the table. And when I look at, and the reason why I'm asking this is that, you know, if we think that Greater Wellington is no longer going to exist, they only used you know, cases of what would happen with transport, but we know that there are more duties and responsibilities that that particular unitary or, you know, regional council does, and yet those were never factored in any of the numbers, the calculations, and yet we're being asked to actually sit at the table and say we support when there's so much information that hasn't been done. So why were they so narrow in the brief that was given to them? Because I don't think it gives us a true account of the cost of amalgamation.
I think I just want to back step one thing. I think just to add to what the Mayor said, officers worked pretty hard at Upper Hutt to get information to elected members in a trusted way. And to the Mayor's point, we did not know what would change and what wouldn't. So it was, the whole thing has been quite challenging. I will say that. On the financials, the briefing was given to Martin Jenkins to pull together how the region could possibly look. They have not done detailed work. It is, I deliberately use this language, what they have done is a little bit of a black box. The assumptions they've made, we have not been privy to. They have been driven by timelines. We've had literally less than 3 months. There has been no unpicking of what Martin Jenkins have done by this council. We have not had that opportunity. So there's been a little bit of, I'm not answering your question on why they were briefed like they were briefed, because I don't think I can actually answer that thoroughly as well. But what I can say is they have not yet done detailed analysis, and the paper says that will have to come at the next stage. So essentially, my understanding is that most of what they did was take the long-term plans, initiate rates harmonisation, and then take it from there.
I think Lisa would like to.
Thank you, Richard. I would just add to what Kate has said. I'll just read you 2 sentences from the at the time DIA guidance for developing the Head Start proposal. And it's just this section here. focus on the core ideas, key trade-offs, and what still needs to be worked through. We don't expect you to generate new evidence for the proposal or undertake detailed modelling, but rely on information you already have available. And I think that really the guidance and the policy criteria is really what informed the work program and the brief to the consultants involved.
And that was read from the Head Start or implementing the Head Start document.
That is from the guidance document.
Yeah. Okay, because I picked that up as well.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that we were reading from the same document. So
How many further have you got?
I've got two more.
Two more, okay, I'll let you keep going, I'm gonna cough in the hallway and I will.
Yeah, so with regard to that, the proposal that has been in this document that we've got to consider is actually going a step a little bit further than that, in the sense that they're talking about one unitary authority with 5 councils underneath, which gives us the impression that actually we're going to be absorbed as a Hutt City Council, which goes to a reference that the petitioner, Teresa Holman, mentioned, that actually we lose the identity. And it then also goes to another question that was given by Carson about, do we actually lose the name of Upper Hutt and become a city of Wellington? All of those things are really, really important, because as much as the central government is talking about having, not losing local government, I think the detail that we've got is really scary. And I just wonder why, and the other scary part for me is the cost of amalgamation. You're saying that the financials that are being put in here may not be, the final thing, but normally when those figures come out, the cost of amalgamation doesn't come down, it goes up.
There is nothing in this that is about costs going down.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to shock, I say that to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's not 5, it's at least 5.
Yeah.
And Upper Hutt worked hard to get that language in there, so I would say that first up.
Right.
And now I've lost the rest of your. So I apologise.
So basically what I'm saying is that the costings that have put in there and the harmonisation is going to start right from the get-go,
Yes.
right? And we already know that our community is struggling with the harmonisation that is going to come with Te Aki Wai. And because I know that Liesl has said this is only the beginning of the conversation, there are more things to have. I have a lot of suspicion that those things are not going to work for us as a community, which is what our mayor has said both on radio and in the public arena, that we are a well-run council. So,
And is there I missed the question?
I think I do remember your question now, because the rest of your, and I'm going to be pretty simple on my.
no, go for it.
The question today is whether about you lean in and influence that, or whether you let it be done to you, if I can be so crude. That is the simplicity about what this is. It is not about things costing less. No, it's not. It's about leaning in, being part of it, being taken in, or being left to be told what to do. That's the crudity of what this is about. Sadly, that's it.
Just a question, through your worship, just a question from Councillor Swain's question. What evidence demonstrates that a single unitary model will be better for Upper Hutt than 2 or 3 or even status quo? Even I understand that.
Through your worship, the 2 things. One, the guideline alludes to, and somewhere in here I can't find it immediately, but it suggests that a single unitary is the preferred from central government. But the second point is, at this stage, the work hasn't been done on the detail. We have not done the work to know that. And we do not know what other councils are going to submit for Friday's discussion.
Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Carey online. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, through you. A question when we talk about costs is we have put everything in our LTP out to, beyond year 10 effectively. And what's coming at that point looks like rates rises in the, multiple double digits or something to be able to actually fund some of that work that has to happen. And so we, there's a question about whether we're viable beyond, it's sort of year 10. How should I be thinking about that in terms of our own viability long term versus as a single unitary long term? Because there's an upfront cost of amalgamation, but there's a long term, how do we afford in our own?
I think through you, Your Worship, page 205, we had the infometrics work done to look at the long-term, the current long-term plan of Upper Hutt City Council and year 1 to 10 and years 11 to 13. And if you look at the current long-term plan settings, Upper Hutt Council, as per page 205 infometrics, over the medium term, the status quo of Upper Hutt going alone for an area like Upper Hutt is likely not viable. So that, I think, is the answer.
Can I follow up on that, Matt? Do you have a follow up, or shall I? Oh, sorry, Councillor Carey.
So
do you
then,
want to follow up, Councillor Carey, or may I? Oh, yes.
no, you can go.
Oh, so just in that though, Kate, that assumes that we would be taking over, the infometrics report assumes we would be taking over public transport. It doesn't assume, no.
Upper Hutt would have to work through public transport, pest control and environmental aspects that the regional council currently undertake. Upper Hutt would have to fund those. So ratepayers already pay for those. So as a ratepayer, you could say you're paying for them already and that would have to continue. But that's very crude.
The infometrics report doesn't deal with alternative option of how those are arranged and those being the key concern. No.
Can I follow up on that vein, please?
Yeah, sure.
So I guess to follow that up then about going it alone is obviously our current LTP and what that looks like long term. Alone, then this wouldn't be a carve out of things from Greater Wellington into us that remains cost neutral. In my understanding, this would be duplication because we would have mirrored functions that other parts of the region would have if everyone was their own unitary. Is that where we're talking about this environmental regulation and whatnot?
Yes. If you carved everyone out, yes, you would lose the. If I understand your question correctly, Councillor Carey, the benefits of Greater Wellington Regional Council would be lost and you would have 8 councils doing their own services in that area, those 3 areas.
Thank you.
That answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Just one more. Is there any reason why, even though we wrote a letter to the Mayor of Hutt City Council, and possibly that wasn't expressed and shown to other colleagues, elected colleagues down there, is there any reason why we can't put in a proposal that amalgamate?
Yeah.
And drag them in and take away from the big city?
We cannot, because if I go back to page 4 of the proposal, eligibility, any 2 or more of the territorial, including any 2 or more territorial, may submit an outline proposal. To ensure the right scale proposals must represent a majority of either of the directly affected territorial authorities or the population across the directly affected areas. So Upper Hutt and Lower Hutt, if I can use the word Lower Hutt, do not represent the majority of Greater Wellington Regional Council.
And is that because government have already said that we're a metro area, which means it takes in all 8 TAs?
No, it's not relevant.
So what you're saying is then our 2 populations compared to the other
Greater Wellington.
That's what I'm saying.
Wairarapa
Yeah.
to Kapiti.
Yeah.
Drop down to south.
Yeah.
And those 8 councils in there.
Okay, so that's a better explanation because it didn't.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Through your worship, just a question from Councillor Swain's questions. What the
Sorry.
what the other models rejected because they didn't meet the criteria, or was the single unitary preferably by the mayoral forum?
I'm going to ask Liesl to speak to that because she's been on our working group and so she can.
Through you, Worship, the configurations, the three configurations in the proposal considered were considered viable under the criteria. However, the single unitary was the preferred model.
By the mayoral forum.
Correct.
Thank you.
Question.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, sorry about that.
Sorry, Worship. So if the three warded upper councils chose not to be a part of it, and Kapiti chose not to be a part of it, and Lower Hutt maybe, and Upper Hutt, then there would be a majority population. If it didn't suit Lower Hutt.
I don't want to get into maths, but my understanding is Wellington City and Porirua could drive the majority. Population wise, just.
Doing it like
Yeah, and it comes to about 51%. It's very close, but we could, but Hutt have already said they're going forward, they've already voted. Companies voted here.
Okay, sorry.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm actually at point 7 on page 11, but it's not, it's only that it just says a bit, about the voluntary Head Start pathway and the backstop reform pathway. And that backstop reform pathway would happen regardless of which way each council votes on the Head Start pathway. And so that would mean that the process would be the same regardless of which way each council votes, would it? Or, but I mean, it's not even written yet, so we don't know. But there would have to be a public consultation at some point. And so at that point, that would be when we would know for sure like what we should be doing for our community.
I'll answer the first part of your question, Councillor Otton. On the backstop reform pathway, if I can be so bold, Chris Carson in his talk alluded to, we have an election, we have no legislation, and we do not know what that looks like. And so if Upper Hutt's taken into that, as it currently stands, and then, like I say, there's a lot of unknowns out there, but as it currently stands, if Upper Hutt was taken into it, we do not know what that looks like. We do not know, you know, what would be required of us and what would happen. So the Head Start is the only way at the moment to control the destiny. So that's the first part. And then consultation, I'll defer to you, Liesl. I mean, as we work through it here.
I'll just clarify, your the component part of the question around consultation. Are you saying at that point consultation will occur as part of backstop? Is that the question?
Yeah, so at the point when backstop starts in 2027, there would be a consultation required, surely, for communities to have some input. But because the backstop isn't actually written, we don't know that for sure, but there must be legislation around the requirement for consultation.
No, I think you've answered your own question somewhat, which is because we do not know what backstop is, and because as it's stated, the way it's stated at the moment is that backstop would be compulsory, so there may not need to be consultation. I do not know. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult, we just don't know.
I have a question. The narrative around backstop has evolved slightly, and it talks. There's been comments around it being more like the original simplifying local government proposal before the Head Start was announced. Is there potential, do you think, for that to be more similar to the kind of CTB model with existing councils and mayors on the governance of the regional council functions if this proposal wasn't to go ahead writ large? Like if the region didn't submit a proposal and we were in backstop, it is the option of a CTB kind of model a possibility of an option under backstop? You can say you don't know if you want.
Based on exactly, we know exactly what you know, we just described. And so, yes, you're right. There have been comments along those lines hinting at the original simplifying local government announcement. And that's really as much as we know, is what we couldn't say for certain either way.
And I have a question in relation to the Infometrics report. Would you describe the Hutt City Council high capex as reflective of where we are in our asset cycle rather than a high ongoing need for capex? Similar to a place like.
I would say that's correct. Upper Hutt has in the last 3 to 4 years invested heavily in its community assets, and it has excellent community assets as a result, and is carrying the debt related to those assets. And so if you look at the balance sheet, there's some good assets there. There's some debt that's related to those assets, and so it's not an ongoing issue because as anyone who's looked at the long-term plan will see, the capital spend has decreased as we roll forward for the next few years to reflect that higher spend than recent years.
I'm thinking we might, if there's any further questions after the last questions, we'll just take a 5-minute adjournment while anyone finishes off, because I know people have been writing their statements for when we go to speak to the motion. Is anyone got any further questions before we do that? And then I'll go for a 5-minute adjournment, partly to cough and partly to give you the opportunity to finish your statements. Councillor Holness.
We can pause and you can go and cough now.
No, it's okay. You go for it. I've had some cough syrup and some warm water.
It's more, and it's probably actually more a question for you, maybe, I'm not sure. But given we're currently landing regionally as the votes are coming in this week, we're kind of in an interesting place because KCDC have requested that they be a separate unitary authority. Carson and Masterton have requested a Wairarapa unitary authority, although South Wairarapa has just voted to join the Wellington 6-4 this afternoon. So we're now in this sort of interesting space where configuration 3 on page 57 is sort of looking, apart from South Wairarapa in there, is sort of looking a bit more in that space with a metro unitary. And if I'm understanding right, under a metro unity, we wouldn't have community councils.
So the question, community councils are part of the proposal.
Yes.
And it is yet to be debated whether
configuration 1
we would have them regardless.
Regardless.
All configuration that we would have those community councils. Yeah.
And so what's the question? Or was that the question?
That was part of it, but also is it does the mayoral forum because it looks like from the proposal that it's separate configuration 1 is really the only one that can work in the way it's written in meeting the government criteria and guidelines. Do you think that under where people have landed, it's likely that other councils would try and co-opt any of the other outliers?
I won't preempt any decisions that have been made at the hearing forum, and there have been discussions, and those will be ongoing on Friday.
You can go cough now.
Yeah, do we have further questions? Otherwise, we'll just have a quick 5-minute adjournment, because what I've encouraged councillors to do is to everyone state their position in this next part. That's unusual for a motion. Usually we have a selection of people state their position, but given it's such an important issue, all of us are going to state our position, so that's going to take a little while. So I figure we'll have a quick adjournment. If anyone wants to finish their notes, we'll have 5 minutes and then we'll come back. And if anyone needs to go to the bathroom, pop up their water, anything, we can do that. And then we'll go completely around for all of the positions. We're then going to go around again for right of reply, and then we'll have the decision. So just in terms of letting you know how long it might be until you see that decision, I know that you're holding out for it, and I appreciate that, but we do definitely want to give councillors a really good go at outlining their position, understanding each other's positions, and then voting on those.
Can I just ask one more question? Just around the legal question that was asked in the public forum, and that there was a Lagoima that said that there wasn't any report on that. Could you tell me if there has been any legal issues raised by any other councils or by our own legal team or anyone?
We have, so the region has involved some recent duty on through local government New Zealand. And we talked with our legal people informally through the process. The problem we have is it's not a legal, it is not a legal framework at this point in time. And someone raised the judicial review matter. We've thought about that and discussed that. One of the things that has struck us through this is that Upper Hutt is following due process, but how do I put it? Because it's in policy state settings, there is the ability for the government to legislate and change life on us. So does that make sense? We could make decisions and go down paths, and then the government legislate, and that makes everything we've done void. And so it's a really messy thing to be dealing with, and there's not a lot of information. And that's why it's been important to be in the room, because that's where we get the information from.
All right, we'll have a 5-minute adjournment. We'll come back at 6:05 and give your loved ones an update on what time you might be home. And we'll be there.
I need to do that.
Kia koutou, we'll restart.
Because I'm always.
Kia koutou, we'll restart and welcome to those of you who've joined us now in the chambers who were in the overflow space. We're glad that we can accommodate you all here now. We are going to move to debating the pay for simplifying local government reform Head Start proposal. What we're going to do is there's first recommendations, which are all noting recommendations. These are recommendations A through E, and we will move those, and then we will start the debate when we get into pathway A or B. Is everyone okay with that? No, great. I'll move recommendations A through E.
Should we do them one at a time? Might be easier.
They're all noting.
Yeah.
So receives the report, notes the submission as an outline proposal, notes the eligibility criteria, notes that some councils are considering alternative Head Start configurations. Notes that each council is making its own decision on the proposal, and it will meet on the 7th of August to consider the collective effects of those decisions and determine whether and in what form a proposal was submitted to government. So happy to take those all together. Seconder, Councillor Holderness. All right. I think we'll try not to speak to these ones if no one wants to speak. Okay. To the noting recommendations. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Bill, Councillor Hammond. Yes, carried. Great. Okay, so the next part is that?
I had a request to add additional.
Yes, we can deal with that. Yeah. First we should deal with that with pathway A or B. I'm assuming it's pathway.
No, because it's just.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. I will hand over to Councillor Holderness for her 2 additional noting recommendations.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to propose 2 additional recommendations here. They're the ones that Greater Wellington also did, and the Hutt City also have accepted today for noting, which is 1, note that the Head Start proposal timeframe has not allowed sufficient time for appropriate involvement of elected members, city representatives and communities in the process to date. And 2, that we note, or should I take them separately? All together. And 2, note that the short timeframes imposed by the government has led to cursory engagement with communities across the region, to the point that no proposal to the government can be said to be the result of quality and sustained community involvement.
So we'll just pop these up on the screen so everyone can see them. And we'll give us a moment to consider them. Then we'll see if we have a seconder. So Dylan is our seconder. Lisa. So those are in red, and I will give councillors a moment to read them.
Okay.
Your Worship, can we please ask they put them in the chat or something like that? We can't.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Yes,
can.
please.
Yes, we'll do.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Lisa.
You got it on your computer, because it's really hard to read from here.
Oh, yeah, go.
Just checking that councillors online have received that.
Just checking.
Thank you. Yeah. The same goes through.
Where were we receiving it to?
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Carey, could you say that again?
Where were we supposed to be checking to see if we received it?
Oh, it'll be in the Teams chat.
We're on Zoom.
Yeah.
Do you have Teams on device somewhere?
No, we don't have Teams access.
No.
Oh, you don't,
No.
okay.
I don't know what that's through.
New plan, check your WhatsApp.
Yeah. That's what I was doing. I thought it was on that.
It's in the email as well.
Or email is another option.
Yeah, email's good.
We're firing them off on all cylinders, every kind
It's already in the,
of comms. What's that, sorry?
it's already in the email. The.
Or can we put it in the chat on Zoom? Is that a possibility?
It would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, there should be.
Got it. Got the email. Thank you.
Email, excellent. Councillor Hammond, can you confirm you have said recommendations?
Yeah. Yeah. Reading it now. Thank you.
Excellent. We will. Thanks for bearing with us. Democracy does sometimes take a long time.
Excuse me, Leah.
Pass me my drink.
I'm Chris King, a local. I just want to ask one question, that's all I want to do. Am I allowed to ask one question?
Unfortunately, at the moment, we're in our debate session, so you can only speak when it's the public forum.
That's right.
Sorry, I'm so sorry about that.
No, I should have spoken earlier, but I didn't hear everything.
Yeah, all good. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, can I confirm that the two of the councillors online have that recommendation, those recommendations?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, all right, let's move to a vote. We've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Excellent. Okay. So now we move to the substantive part of the meeting, which is pathway A or B. And I will move pathway B, which is do not approve Upper Hutt's participation in the Wellington Regional Head Start proposal. May I have a seconder? Councillor Swales, thank you. What we're going to do is speak to these recommendations. So just for the audience, there was two pathways. One was support the proposal and one was not to support the proposal, and we've moved to not support the proposal, which is what we'll debate now. If that is lost, we will go back and look at the other recommendations. I won't read them out, but it essentially allows for, does not agree to submit a proposal and does not approve our participation in the inclusion of the proposal, and requests that any proposal submitted does not include a council who resolves not to, and then authorises myself to participate in those discussions to give effect to that recommendation. We will move to debate. Exciting. Who wants to start? I guess Deputy Mayor, thank you.
We are Upper Hutt and we are proud. We like our name, we like our colours. We have a beautiful city. We are a growing city, we've got lots of scope, beautiful place to be. Our identity, as Chris Carson earlier said, I think will be lost. The forests, the size, the rivers, the unique makeup of our city. Rate increases, we're the lowest out of all of those cities. Porirua, Wellington and Lower Hutt. So the rate will increase over time. We had Denise Hutt, who was the Deputy Mayor of Auckland, come down and say we will lose community voice and our costs will go up. 3 to 4K saving over many years. Costs, as we know, will go up and that will just be absorbed. The loss of community voice and decision making. So it's time to look at into things with proper investigation as well, to make sure that we have more time to check things, and we have not had this time. As the Martin Jenkins report said, many things are based on unverified assumptions. Upper Hutt has the lowest operational expenditure of those cities. Our council is the most efficient already. We are a lean and effective team. We're at the end of our capital spend, as the Mayor said. Also, the legal coverage, it is a risk. The lack of information is a risk. There simply is not enough detail. It is in Upper Hutt's best interest to stay as and not accept the to not accept the proposal moving forward. So I will be voting for Pathway B, which is not to take part in Head Start.
Deputy Mayor. I'll go. First, I just want to genuinely thank the community. I've been really proud to sit around the Mayoral Forum and say that our community is extremely engaged in these conversations and that there's lots of participation in these topics of discussion. So that is awesome. Secondly, I want to thank elected members for their continued engagement with the community and with each other. While the process has been fraught, I know that our elected members' discussion with our community has been meaningful. Discussion around our council table has been considered and collaborative. Third, I want to acknowledge the work of mana whenua from across the region on this kaupapa. Their shared commitment to kotahitanga and respect is admirable, and I acknowledge and endorse their request that the shape of local government and their takiwa must not be decided without iwi at the table. Now I'm going to outline my position. There's quite a lot to cover, so I'll start at a high level and address the why of reform, move to the flaws in this process, and then why I believe Head Start doesn't make sense for our community under current conditions. Head Start is for those who are ready. At the first Mayoral Forum, I asked my colleagues to start with asking ourselves, what problem are we trying to solve? The case for reform is different across different councils in different regions. There are examples across the country where amalgamation makes sense and where there may be broad community support towards merging councils. For them, Head Start is an opportunity to provide better services and infrastructure delivery while maintaining local voice. However, there is no one-size-fits-all for reform. The Martin Jenkins reports notes that New Zealand studies find no evidence of an unequivocal relationship between size and cost effectiveness of local government, and there are likely to be efficiency gains on combining councils of up to 50,000 residents, but beyond that there's no evidence of additional relative efficiency gains from amalgamation. International evidence demonstrates that a population of 50,000, similar to Nelson, Tasman, Gisborne and Marlborough unitary authorities, are the size that enables a balance of meaningful local voice and scale that supports effective and efficient service delivery. It is still unclear what problem we are trying to solve. We know from large research on big change projects that most of them fail because they rush to get to a solution before considering all alternatives, exploring risks and gathering information. Our obligations as stewards of public money and protectors of local democracy is to deeply consider the evidence in front of us and interpret that with the consideration of our community's concerns. Our survey showed that our community is by and large only open to change if it clearly improves outcomes. The key concerns are rates, affordability and local representation. Considering the proposal in front of us, the costs are significant. At an estimate of $296 million transitional costs for a Wellington metro, our households could face an indicative transitional cost of around $1,100 for a transition that may generate a potential savings of $160 a year over 25 years. Those savings are not a given. A few bad spending decisions could eviscerate them. That's a gamble I don't think many low and middle income households would be willing to take in this cost of living crisis. Because Upper Hutt already operates at a significantly lower cost than the regional average in terms of OPEX, it's unclear how much of the projected efficiency gains would accrue to our community. The available modelling simply doesn't answer that question. We currently have the lowest rates in the region, and amalgamation would likely see harmonisation of those to a higher regional average. The proposal does not outline if and how those increases would provide potential corresponding increase to our level of service. When it comes to debt, the picture is even less compelling. As of June 2025, it is before water was removed, Upper Hutt City Council's debt per household is around 12,000, where Wellington City Council's is around 23,000 per household. There's also the cost of managed retreat, which is a potential significant liability on the balance sheet that nobody seems to want to talk about. These distributional impacts mean that our community may end up paying significantly more with little additional gains in services. Our community's second main concern is around local representation. We would go from having 11 elected representatives with full discretion over our spending to 1 or 2 councillors around a table of 20 or more. Local democratic decision-making about things that matter to us are not guaranteed in the model. To my mind, those are the key costs and risks. What about the opportunities to plan better regionally? Well, I believe we do not need reform to have good regional governance. In fact, regional governance of transport, spatial planning and emergency management already exists within current structures, with mayors from around the region sitting on joint committees. The RMA reform will further strengthen this regional governance mandate with a regional spatial committee that can easily be set up from the basis of existing structures such as the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee. We have the tools and structures to achieve the outcome sought of collaborative decision making. While Auckland is touted as an example of a mega council working well, there has never been a post-implementation review of the merger. Furthermore, there are significant areas that do not work well, like the lack of power for local boards and the governance of Auckland Transport, according to the Mayor. As for capability and capacity, it doesn't always translate to action. Auckland Council were the last to fully implement the government intensification rules, and our small council was one of the first. So where to next? I've got half a page left, team. On this basis, and through a lot of analysis, kōrero, and listening to you all today, my position is not to go forward with Head Start. I recognise that not participating in Head Start carries its own risks. It may mean that government pursues reform through a different pathway, and it may reduce our opportunity to shape aspects of any future proposal. I have weighed those risks carefully. However, I do not believe that uncertainty is by itself a sufficient reason to endorse a proposal when I'm not persuaded it's in the best interest of Upper Hutt. In my view, it's better to be honest about what we do not yet know than give our support to a proposal that leaves fundamental questions about affordability, representation, and local decision-making unanswered. While I acknowledge that leaves us in a place of much uncertainty, I take our responsibility to our community seriously, and I can't in good faith recommend what is in front of us. If we vote not to support the proposal, I would remain open and willing to explore options such as other regional governance arrangements for things that should be regional, like transport, that address challenges we face in this reform. I believe we could still shape parts of the reform that have consequential impacts for those not included in the proposal if submitted and accepted by government. As I've continued to say in this process, there's more water to go under the bridge. If we collectively do not support the proposal, we're set on a less certain path, but we'll remain committed to engaging with our communities, thinking deeply about your concerns and representing our community's view to the wider region. Finally, my appeal to the Mayoral Forum is to respect our decision made this evening. It is made on behalf of our communities and in accordance with the oath that we took as we entered office. Who else would like to speak?
I'll go.
Councillor Swanson.
I come from a very cautious position on the Head Start proposal, which is exactly the position that I had with Te Aki Wai. And I maintained that there was always never enough information for me to give a credible answer and consideration when I am an elected voice of the community. So Upper Hutt City Council has a long history of working collaboratively with neighbouring councils on issues of regional importance, including transport, water, emergency management, economic development and shared services. That collaboration should continue where it delivers better outcomes for residents and better value for our ratepayers. However, participation in government's Head Start process represents a fundamentally different decision. It would begin the process of replacing Upper Hutt City Council with a new regional governance structure and details of which have yet to be determined. The council report itself acknowledges that many of the critical components of the proposal remain unsolved. These include governance arrangements, representation, rating impacts, funding allocation, service delivery responsibilities, community council powers, implementation of costs and transition planning. It also confirms that the available analysis does not determine the specific costs, benefits, rating impacts, or service level changes for Upper Hutt and its residents. Importantly, the report further notes that Upper Hutt has not undertaken a detailed assessment of the implications of alternative governance configurations affecting our city. Given the scale of the proposed reforms, it would be premature to commit Upper Hutt residents to a process without fully developed business cases that clearly demonstrates and I will enumerate the financial implications for Upper Hutt ratepayers, affordability, the effect on local representation and democratic accountability, the impact on council services and service levels to our community, the transitional costs and associated risks to our community, the long-term benefits specific to Upper Hutt that our Mayor has already articulated. The report also acknowledges that many aspects of the proposal will only be designed after government approval and could still be modified during the detailed design phase or through enabling legislation. This creates uncertainty about the final governance model that Upper Hutt would ultimately become a part of. For these reasons, a prudent and responsible approach is to continue supporting regional cooperation and shared services where they provide clear benefits while declining to participate in the Head Start process until there is sufficient evidence to demonstrate that the proposal is in the best interest of Upper Hutt and its residents. Before any decision of this magnitude is made, residents should be access to comprehensive information of the impacts for their city and to be given a meaningful opportunity to have their say. Major changes to local democratic representation should proceed only when supported by clear evidence and informed community mandate. I don't believe we have that, and I support the position and what the Mayor has articulated in the financial impacts that will happen to us. That is all I have to say.
Further statement. Anyone can also just agree with other statements if you would like, or disagree if you would like. I invite you.
I like to speak. Thank you, Worship. This is an important decision for the future of Upper Hutt and our region, and I acknowledge the significant work to develop the proposal and the efforts from everyone involved. However, after carefully reading the report and listening to our community, I'm not convinced that we have enough information to support submitting this proposal at this time. While the proposal sets out a vision, many of the key details remain unknown. The powers and funding of community councils, the final governance arrangements, and the long-term impacts on our community have yet to be determined. Our engagement also showed that residents want us to be involved in the conversation, but they also want us to proceed cautiously and ensure any changes clearly benefit Upper Hutt. For those reasons, I cannot support submitting this proposal today. My decision is not a rejection for future discussions. It is a decision that this proposal in its current form does not yet provide with enough certainty to support it on behalf of the people I represent. So therefore, I would support the Part B of the pathway B. Thank you for the opportunity.
Councillor Dillon, we've got Councillor Carey online.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Always hate going after some of my more articulate colleagues. I guess I'd like to speak to the fact that with our survey, 84% of the respondents said to be involved in that planning and understanding that this is a moving feast and information is emerging as we go. It didn't commit to a decision, and it doesn't determine the final decision and what that looks like. But it is a decision to plan in that. I feel like a lot of what we're sitting on is a mindset of the current, and that, you know, the interests of whatever future council was elected don't include the interests of our current city. And bear in mind, if you're elected as a mayor of the future environment, then you also have a responsibility for the interest of all the other parts of that region who are voting you in. And so there's an element of our current perspective that we're bringing into what we don't know as a future design. I get really concerned when we talk about the costs up front of this, but we don't actually look at the costs facing us currently as we are when we know that we're not viable. Do we all have the courage to put the rates up so considerably so we don't sit in this low rates position that we're currently saying is a good thing whilst facing the fact that we probably don't have our long-term funding, ability to actually maintain this council. So there's two places that we're sitting in. One is more expensive and the current is cheaper, but it's not a reality that we actually have. None of our advice, this or our current council advice, says that. We talk about the shared services model as something to hold up, and in some respects, I think it is. I think it has good value as scalability when we look at small things like dog control through to some of the big elements and how we manage infrastructure. But it also gives us a bit of an arm's length from responsibility. We're going to watch a lot of our dumps fill up in this because we can always blame timing for other councils and funding and when things happen. We're going to watch our assets continually deteriorate, and how much more so when Greater Wellington aren't there as the regulator for examples like Seaview. It's another risk that sits here like Moore Point because we don't own it inherently, we share it, and that there removes some of the risk. When we look at what we have to take on as going it alone and sitting in this space, duplicating the functions of Greater Wellington, when we've got the overwhelming land mass and area that requires regulation in the space that they're heavily set up to do, right, environmental regulation. Again, we can look at a shared service model, but it disproportionately hits us with the water catchment, with the amount of bush that we have. When we look at some of the growth and the planning and the that we talk about, or the other pains that we might have with climate, with managed retreat, we're not looking at the flip side of that, of how we're going to influence any of that growth or any of the moving populations that come into a more resilient area that we are, if we're not part of that conversation and sitting in that space. So there's a concern there that we're just saying, well, we don't have to shoulder the cost. Well, we may have to shoulder the cost in other ways that we don't have a decision or influence on, and that could be potentially worse. So in my view, I think we should be in that conversation. We should be part of it and actively influencing it for the best outcomes. We don't know what backstop looks like. We don't know what being co-opted into looks like as an unwilling participant, and how much really that gives us a say at the table as well. And so I still think pathway A in my mind is the best option. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carey. Further, Councillor Holness.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all the officers and all the work that they have put into getting us to this place, along with members of the public who have made great effort to engage with the process, along with my fellow colleagues who have all gamely engaged in all of the Facebook lives and everything else that comes along with it. It is genuinely really difficult to try and come up with something in 12 weeks. So to have a coherent, viable proposal is testament to all the work that has gone on through the officer channels. I think, and I've always thought that we should be part of the discussion and joining the discussion. The 12-week timeframe hasn't allowed us to fully explore the best options, potentially. So we've ended up with where we've got. Hence my request to add those recommendations to the paper. I think what I'm most concerned about is the risk of a loss of agency of us as a council. This government has shown quite a disdain at times for local government. Weighed up against, we've got a whole lot of unknowns on one hand, but backstop means that the government would apply a standard model at the moment rather than a locally decided one. And I'm not really convinced that an off-the-shelf version would allow us much room to keep our local voice. Given what the government has signalled as what it thinks of local government, I doubt that they've put a whole heap of effort into ensuring that we, as Upper Hutt, retain our local voice in much. With the Head Start proposal, There is the government preference that there is only one unitary authority in a region, and only more than one of the cabinet decides that it's necessary, providing that it delivers clear, simpler local decision making. If we are on our own, if we remain as Upper Hutt City Council on our own, it won't be in the same way that we are now, because we won't be next to other territorial authorities. We will be next to a larger unitary authority, potentially. All the things that Councillor Swales mentioned around identity are very important. And I absolutely agree with that, along with all of the Facebook comments and all of the conversations that we've had around this. And for that reason, I think we shouldn't leave it to a government decision, as we might not like where it lands. If we wait for the election, we roll the dice. And while that might be tempting, I'm not sure that I think that that's good governance. Backstop will be influenced by proposals developed in the Head Start. And if we're not part of developing a Head Start, again, I feel that we have a loss of that agency. So I think we should say what we want within the Head Start, so we're not shut out of the conversation. And also that we have an opportunity to say what happens not just with our city, but within our region.
You, Councillor Holden, Councillor Hammond is taking herself off mute, so it's your turn, I think. Just in case you accidentally say something else anyway.
Yes, yes, thank you, Your Worship. Look, I've read through everything that's been put in front of me, and listened to as much of the community. The Martin for local knowledge or expertise in this, their corporate profit fees are always higher than local businesses. No consideration was given for our geographic position that a corporate model would increase the costs overall. If we vote for a Head Start, Upper Hutt will end up as a Tawa, Petone and an Eastbourne with no local say, but will be asset stripped as they were. I feel that a local community would have tolerated an Upper Hutt, Lower Hutt cooperation, but no Wellington involvement, considering the incompetence shown over the last 10 years and the perceived dishonesty regarding the Wellington water money going into the town hall. I'm sure Wellington's inability.
Councillor Hammond, I'll just caution you there in relation. I haven't got the standing orders in front of me, but I will caution you in relation to making statements that are potentially not true.
I'm sure.
I will find the standing order in a moment. Carry on.
I am sure Wellington's inability to run themselves efficiently have caused the government to look at this flawed option. If government paid their way, e.g. fair rates for the army land that we're on and the Kangaroo homes, and paid for their expenses that are put onto council for their policies, all councils would be in a better start than where we are now. I'll be supporting recommendation B. Thank you,
Councillor Hammond. I'm still trying to find your standing orders, but anyway, you've carried on, so that's great. Do we have any further speakers? Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Worship. I'll keep it simple. I was voted in by my community and I listened to them through store conversations, public meetings and monitoring social media. I'm in agreement with Chris Carson's comments. It's a common theme amongst our residents. It's clear that they are against a super city type model amalgamation. Now the financials are out and how much an amalgamation will cost us, I feel there is nothing to gain for us and a lot to lose. I really do fear for our own voice in our community, whether our rates would be subsidising others in the region. This has been rushed through with limited consultation, a lot of assumptions, and a lot of I don't knows. Pathway B recommendation F mentions shared service opportunities. This is something that we should be investigating a lot closer, especially with the disestablishment of regional councils. There are a lot of shared service opportunities that alone that we can undertake. So I'll be voting against the Head Start proposal.
Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Altright.
Thank you, Worship. I've actually got pages and pages and pages of notes from all of the meetings that I've attended with the LGNZ updates and discussions with other regions around the country and around the world. There are other regions like Auckland who haven't achieved scales of economy, even though they've had their amalgamation in place for, I think it's 3 years, or it could be more, but in the community survey, there were 49.8% open to change if it clearly improves outcomes. And I don't see that it does. And I don't think that being in the room is the only thing that we would be agreeing to by endorsing this proposal. And so there were questions asked, like in the Marlborough district, and we had discussions with people from all around the country, and one of the questions asked was, what needs to be managed by a larger collective? And we already have that larger collective. We already have the Greater Wellington Regional Council. So I don't even agree with dismantling that. And I don't think we should need to dismantle the entire system, and especially not at an establishment cost of 250 million, or it could be more if I'm wrong. And so who pays for that? And then there's the harmonisation of rates as well, which would affect Upper Hutt adversely. We were told that we need to reduce duplication, align with the RMA, and achieving scales of economy and improving cost effectiveness. And I think that this could be done without dismantling the entire system at a 250 million cost that we then have to pay off over many years. And our community are concerned about higher rates and costs. And I think that this has come at a time when people are still in the process of settling in with Te Ake Wai and their new water bills. And I think it's a terrible time to be introducing more costs. On the rates capping, I'm quite unclear as to whether that would reduce council revenue or so would it mean that the council can't rate as high, but it wouldn't mean that the cap would be effective per household, so their rate could still increase more than that depending on their CV. I'm still trying to get my head around the maths on that. So we only have two options, and that's to go with Head Start or backstop. Either way, I think they'll probably be quite alike. I think that we will still have to consult the community properly. And I think I'll just leave it at that, because I could keep going and go through all my pages, but I won't do that.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we have two levers. You can be as long or as short as you like. We've all.
Okay, I don't have notes. I agree with councillor Ultra in the sense that I don't think the system's that broken that it needs to be thrown out and completely overhauled at such a ridiculous cost. One for the books, I also agree with the mayor, especially especially your last sentiment about being dragged in, our neighbours being able to drag us in. I think I also heard what good governance could be, and I think good governance is actually making decisions when you have all the options on the table. I've not been in this chair that long, and I'm actually disappointed in some of the decisions that we've made where we haven't had enough information to make those decisions. And I feel like this is one of those as well. So yeah, I'll be ready. No. Well, yes, no.
Thank you, councillor Well.
Lucky
last. Was that deliberate?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not really. But I wanted to say that I support you, your worship, and your call to go with Pathway B. It probably doesn't surprise many people, but I thought that I would explain why that is. I do hear the discussion and I do understand the possibilities and the opportunities of being in the room and being with the Head Start process. But I'm probably one of the few around the table that have been here ever since Upper Hutt became Upper Hutt. And that if there is such a thing as, and I believe that there probably is, that genetic DNA and a genetic predisposition to be, you know, to kind of understand your ancestry and the ancestors in Te Puna. I have that, you know, my family, we're one of the first families, the first Pakeha families here in Upper Hutt. And so I really don't think that I'm making this decision based on them and what they have contributed to Upper Hutt and what our current generations are contributing to Upper Hutt and what our future generations might be able to contribute to Upper Hutt. The legislation, and so therefore that community, that tūranga waiwai of this space is where I'm standing, and I'm standing in that firmly now. The legislation, there is no legislation in place to force us to do this. I have seen the language change. The minister has changed his language. It's more voluntary, it's more kind of conciliatory, because I think he can feel, or the government can feel, that there's a change in sense from communities around the nation. I do want to say that really do appreciate the amount of hours and work and angst that the staff have put into this, because, you know, they have put that in on that premise of what the DIA, what the government have said the rules have to be. I would like to think that if we, by agreeing to this, that we still have some space where we could talk about proposals that are good for Upper Hutt, that, you know, how we might be able to do those regional things better. The other one disappointment that I would like to say is that this actually, from the government, is an example of a lack of respect for elected members at local government level. And I'm probably I am a little emotional about that, because over my time of being an elected member, I have never, ever disrespected another elected member, regardless of what level they're at, whether they're at central or local. And we have sure taken the punches from them, and enough is enough. We cannot be doing this. We cannot be I find it absolutely unpalatable with some of the language that's been spoken about to us from central government. I think it's unpalatable how our mayor actually has been treated by you know, other elected members. And I just think, and I want to support your last statement about the mayoral forum respecting our decision and our community for what we are doing here. This doesn't mean we don't care about the region. This doesn't mean we don't care about being efficient, that we don't care about the environment, that we don't care about our river. It means that we do. And I really really want to implore that and just quietly, we have your back, Mayor Perry.
Thank you, Councillor McLeod. Any right of replies? Does anyone want to start with? I did say I'd give everyone an opportunity. I'm hopeful that we don't all take it, but I have offered, so I will not retract it. Anyone have a right of reply? Councillor Sparks.
I just think that I know that it would appear that it was a predetermination of the elected members around this table, but we did send you into bat with a unanimous support of the elected people around the table. And that was, and I appreciate the fact that you articulated that in all media forms, both radio and written. So I find it a little bit disappointing that there appears to be that you don't still have that support by the conversations that have taken place tonight. So I think that, you know, I believe that we still should put our state our case at the mayoral forum when you go there, that you should have the unanimous agreement once we take the vote, that we are in support of what you are going to say. I think that as working from what is best for our community, there's a lot of legislation coming down, and we know rates capping is one of them. We know RMA, but the way the RMA is going to go, it doesn't matter whether we're amalgamated or not. It's going to be one RMA for the entire country. So I find some of the arguments that are put on the table of why we need to be pushed into this are just bluff and bravado, and that there's no legislation there. And I don't think that we should be held to ransom by what could be, what might be, when, as we've said, we're not afraid to see what that looks like. I think that if they were to take the position that we would be outside the room when they make these decisions, would be a poor thing for them to do to us. I think that should be articulated in a way that's palatable to them, that if they talk about relationships, they talk about still working together, if we're not at the table, then how is that going to happen? So my concern is that if they don't look at it and that we're able, in a democratic position, we don't all have to agree. We can all come from a different perspective, but we should be able to respect whatever that position is and not shut us out the door just because our position is different from the majority. So I would like to say, hopefully, whatever the decision is when we vote, that it is unanimous and that you go with all of us around this table in support of whatever your position you're going to do after the vote. I have nothing more to say.
I'll move to Councillor Holderness. I do need to go to the bathroom and cough a little bit, so I will leave Councillor Deputy Mayor White in the capable chief, and I can stay there. I've held on so long. Thank you, Councillor Holderness.
But no, I was just going to say that whilst I'm sure that we all have our own opinions about the merits of Head Start or not, no matter where we land with it, we will all give our full support to the mayor going into the mayoral forum with wherever we land.
And
Reply. Yeah. Councillor McLeod.
yeah, I just wanted to add, and it's a fairly philosophical statement and probably not entirely related to this, but I actually think we have to get back to a space of respect for our colleagues. And I don't mean just around this table, I mean this table regionally, the leadership of this country. So I just don't, I don't know the actual solution to that, but it's, whatever goes on in here stays in here, and we go out there and we look at each other with trust and respect, and I would hope that filters up to the other regions, the mayoral forum, and hopefully fingers crossed central government at some stage soon. Hope is eternal.
Okay, I'll have my final one reply and then we'll move to the vote hopefully after that. In terms of the council, as it is in its current form and structure going forward, the comments raised and also the concerns in the info metrics report, I think there are serious considerations across local government. We do know that the funding model is broken and that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed in a wholesale way by government, in my opinion, rather than having proposed reforms that don't address the actual issue. And I think we do need to be very clear-eyed around it's not necessarily status quo or even going it alone and Head Start. It's whether or not we support this Head Start proposal. And then there's a whole lot of work to be done by us and potentially by us with others in terms of what that looks like. Being part of regional governance is inherent in the RMA reforms. It's set out in the draft legislation. If that goes through further, the mayor of this entity would be at those tables in discussion around things like spatial planning, infrastructure, adaptation. So certainly that is embedded already in the legislation. So I'm not concerned about that. When we talk about backstop may not allow local voice, just acknowledging Councillor McLeod's point on some of that language has softened around that backstop may be also a collaborative process where we have engaged with that community. So I'm hopeful we can move to the vote.
Yes.
Yay! Excellent. I am very pleased about that. All right, so we're moving, we've moved and seconded pathway B. This is recommendations 4, A through F. And we will do a vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Okay, so we've got two, just clarify, we've got two votes no, Councillor Carey and Councillor Holderness, correct?
Could we take them by
Do we?
I guess, well, no, we don't, but I would support you, representing Upper Hutt with the decision. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's nice. Yes, okay. All right, let's go back. So we're now going to move. Can someone tell me which one we're excluding?
You're going to do.
I'm going to do
A to C.
A to C.
And take D and E second.
Okay, A to C. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And to the contrary, no. Nobody. Is that correct?
No, you've got two no's.
Oh, I've got 2 notes for A to C. Sorry, I knew I was going to get that lost. I wasn't paying attention. Now we'll do D and E. Okay, so I declare those carried, and D and E, which is authorised. D, E, and F, which is authorise the mayor to represent and advocate, confirm the authority provided to the mayor does not extend to agreeing to the. Oh, then that's tricky though. Are you sure you're comfortable voting on E? Confirms that the authority provided to the mayor in the recommendation 4D does not extend to agreeing to inclusion in a Head Start proposal contrary to council's resolution. Oh, you're fine with it. Okay. So we'll now go D through F. Do we need a mover and seconder now that we've said both of them? No. Okay, mover, Councillor Wheeler, seconder. So D through F. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. To the contrary, no. Okay, excellent. Declare that carried.
Can I have a division on both? Thank you.
Yes, yeah, we'll record division. So just for A to C, it's the only one we've got division because the second one was unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay, we've finished that part. What we've got next is minutes. So I'll just let people excuse themselves if they would like. You're welcome to stay for the minutes and then the next part. Oh, no, not the next part. You're welcome to stay for the minutes. But if you would rather excuse yourself so that we can do the procedural part last.
Your worship, need to be excused too. Sorry.
Thank you for your patience. I know it's excruciatingly long to wait. Are you leaving, Matt? You're not.
Yeah, I need to leave as well.